In this video, I go through the 5 spaces every business owner needs in the ClickUp space. We go through why it's important to not have too many spaces and how you can create folders and lists within your spaces to keep it consistent. And lastly, we go through a mind map in a property business, and it's a concept you can use across any organization. Let's talk structure of your ClickUp, and the structure comes down to the number of spaces you have in ClickUp. Now, if you look at my workspace, I always talk about not having too many spaces. If you got more than 7 spaces or more than 10 spaces in your ClickUp workspace, you probably have too much spaces. That's just what I've seen, unless you're in consulting and you got clients on ongoing projects. I would recommend, as a normal business owner, you should have, I think, a maximum of 7 spaces is what I recommend. If you're a larger organization, maybe 10. But as you go over 10 spaces, I believe your ClickUp space is messy, unpredictable, and you're probably building and still finding your way on ClickUp. And that's where a vetted consultant can help you, because getting the structure right in ClickUp is a starting point. Now, the 5 or 6 main spaces I recommend is the CRM space. So your CRM space will house all the potential clients, new onboarding of clients, and also your current existing clients. The next space that works very well is your human resources. So that's where all your staff is at, where you keep your staff. Please ignore the lists. I'm still building this space out, it's still new. And with the human resources, that's where you keep all your employees, your staff members. You can keep their records there, leave, and that's space that your HR department can work in. I keep it separate because when working with spaces, one question you got to ask is the sensitivity of information. And if you're working with employees and staff members, you wouldn't want someone's contract or payslip in a space that's in procurement, for instance. So that's another space, your buying department. So buying department is also a separate space I create, because that's something that a whole team will manage, and you'd like to keep that separate from a workspace of perhaps sales. Depending how large your organization is and what the focus is, you can put the procurement space under a folder in operations, depending on where you're at. Now, operations is, I believe, a unique space depending on your business model you have in your business. This is basically your core business, what you actually do. So if you're working with clients, this is where all your clients will live in. If you're working as a manufacturer, this is where all your projects will be housed. And you can either then save it as a project level, at a client level. Maybe you have different departments that it works through. So your operation should actually fit in one space. If you have a good setup, the maximum spaces that you'll use for operations, I believe, is 3. That's like really pushing it. But a good workspace of 1 is sufficient if you have a good setup. The next, obviously, we can't get a business without finances. So I create a finance space, but I have to put caution, and this is one of the winning tips I can mention is, yes, finance is a space, but this is not the place where you send invoices or manage or monitor your stock. If you got like big stock items or different types of stock items, and this is not a place where you can do your bookkeeping. I had a separate video and I had a conversation about this very issue with Layla on her channel, and I recommend keeping your finances in an accounting software which is specialized and built for accounting. Yes, you can use a finance space to help you with tasks and task management related to the accounting team and reminders and maybe also types of contracts, but I wouldn't put your finances in this space as an accounting system. So that's the first winning tip I can speak about and let you know. Or should I say second? Because the first one I still believe is core of it is keep your spaces at a minimum. Lastly, when people start with ClickUp, you start off with templates. I've done it myself. I want to say it's a mistake, but I'm mindful of the fact of how templates help you build your ClickUp and help you understand ClickUp. And because of this, I'm not totally against templates, but my winning tip I can give is when you have templates, rather save those templates in a template space. Because, or should I say, the main reason for this is if you have it in your template space, if you're not going to use the item or if there's custom fields which don't make sense, at least you know it's all in one space to delete. If you start adding and playing around with templates like as a list or in a folder that you maybe like got or task that you maybe templated using, and you start putting it in your main core spaces, it's going to affect the whole spaces custom field depending on the level you added. So it's something that I try to encourage users to rather keep the templates in one template space, and once you get used to the template and it's actually built and customized to your workspace and the staff understand it, that's when you can shift it into where it should be. So I think that's the biggest tip I can give in this video, and I'm trying to keep this video short because it's a video that's easy to explain, but it's a bit more harder to actually implement. And the reason why I've seen some scary stuff. So I've seen a client that had like 30 spaces, and that 30 spaces, they had a space for every client. And I think that's one of the questions that comes up often. Where should I put a client? Should I put a client as a space? Especially if you work in consulting and work with multiple clients, or you work in manufacturing and you're working on different clients' projects. Or you're in education and you've got different types of schools that you work with. Those are clients of yours. So how do you build that space? And everyone's unique and everyone's got different needs, and you know what I'm trying to say. It's easier to then say, oh, you know what, everyone's different. I can't fit them all in one little bucket, so I'm creating a space. You can just think of the dilemma you're going to face when you're creating a lot of spaces with different custom fields and different statuses. What's going to end up happening is you're going to lose control of your workspace, and you're not going to have something that's uniformed, and you're not going to have something that is predictable. So yes, you will be able to capture the information, and you will know like, okay, for this client, I'm just going to go to this space. Simple, fine. You can capture that information very easy. But where the difficulty comes in is when it comes to understanding what was captured in your ClickUp and looking from a bird's eye view, like using dashboards or using custom views and filtering information. If you're going to have a lot of spaces, it's going to be almost impossible to track bottlenecks and to see where things are lagging, because you won't have consistent data across your workspace. So that's the biggest tip I can give you when it comes to spaces. Now, when you're consulting with someone like myself, when I speak about spaces, I always relate it to workflows and processes. And those that understand their business processes or have business processes, they will respect this, and they will then understand how to build the folders and their lists after the spaces have been set up. So how do we do this? And the approach I use is using mind maps. I'm a big fan of mind maps, and the mind maps I use is built on Whimsical. So Whimsical has made a really great way to build mind maps, process flows, and I mean the stuff you can do on this thing is really amazing. And yes, as a business owner we understand the processes, but to document this is not always easy. So an example I give is, let's work on this one I built. So if you look at the spaces I built, I mean I work a lot with manufacturing companies, I work with property and real estate companies. I also work with property managers, so those who are managing properties and managing large buildings. So I work a lot with guys who are trying to systemize that and trying to establish bottlenecks regarding that. And then obviously education. So online education is becoming a big thing, and education in general. So you'd like to organize the students and organize the workflows related to the course material, how course material is being built, distributed, marked, and then also shared with the student. There's a workflow related to all of that. But since all of us has been exposed in some way or other with property, this is where it starts. And the ClickUp journey, when it comes to your structure, I believe, it starts with a workflow and a diagram that is out of ClickUp. That's the starting point of all my consulting. So my consulting calls and my coaching calls, I always try to bring the conversation to this part, which is the core of the business and understanding the core of the business. Once this is built out, you will then be able to establish, based on this, what should I put as a space? What should I put as a folder? What should I put as a sub-task? What should I put as a list? What should I put as a checklist? So if you understand all the concepts of ClickUp with a vetted consultant, and you bring those concepts of how you understand your business on the ground, you can then allow your staff and your team members to then bridge the gap to what you have in your mind, building it on a process that is documented, and then putting it in ClickUp. And once you have that, you've got the dream workspace, and then you're able to delegate, you're able to monitor, and you're also able to scale your business. So a simple diagram like this would be, there's a prospect, there's a listing, there's an offer, there is a selling phase when the offer is made, and then there's an after sale. That's the process that a normal house sale will go through. And in those processes, there's different documents that will be staff members and different third parties involved. And understanding this just makes it much more easier. There is a link below on how you can get Whimsical. Whimsical is a really great product and it's available for free. There is a paid version, but I think it should suit those who are just starting out, the free. And remember, with the vetted consultant, you can build with confidence.